On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, I have a chat with Matus Lestan from Ethlance.com, the Ethereum-based job site where you can earn cryptocurrency for doing any kind of online job. Vaultoro is the one-of-a-kind online exchange where you can trade between gold and Bitcoin. Reserves can be audited online at any time and are protected from confiscation and company failure. Sign up for a free account today by checking out the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney. Now today is the 2nd of May 2017. It is a Tuesday. This is an interview show, so let's get right into it. So today I'm going to bring you what was for me one of the most educational conversations I've had so far in this interview series. You may have remembered I spoke about this site Ethlance.com on a previous episode of the Cryptoverse. When I first discovered it, I was like, wow, this is spectacular. So I reached out to Matus, who actually single-handedly developed the whole site on Ethereum and also then used the IPFS system to host the website. So the site is completely decentralized, all except the actual domain name. But we actually talk about this in the interview itself. I can see this whole thing of like interviewing people who are creating Ethereum-based apps being a good area for me, because rather than talking about Ethereum directly, if we talk about the apps and the problem they solve, then the capabilities that are enabled by being built on Ethereum will be apparent. I think it's quite hard to describe all the wonderful ways in which Ethereum is applicable, whereas if you go one level up from that and start talking about the apps and then describe how you can do unique things with that app because it's based on Ethereum, I think that will make it much easier to see the benefits of Ethereum itself. And actually Matus talks about this. He says, not only will Ethlance be able to match existing job sites like Upwork and Freelancer.com, but because it's based on Ethereum, it may in fact allow them to do things that they just simply cannot do. So I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you do too. So without further ado, I now bring you Matus Lestan. So today I'm with Matus Lestan from Ethlance. Matus, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, thank you.
I'm glad to have you on the Cryptoverse. So, is it true that the Ethlance website was built by just two guys?
Well, actually, the truth is it was actually built by one guy, me.
Okay.
So basically as for a coding part, it was all done by me, and after I released it in January this year, Joe joined me, and right now he's like taking care of business development part, so I'm still like the only developer. Yeah.
Okay, so just to provide the listeners with a bit of context, if they haven't heard of Ethlance before, it's ETH as in Ethereum, isn't it? And then it's kind of a play on words with Elance, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And again, Elance is what would you call Elance? It's like a site where people can post projects they want done, and then people who can do those jobs bid for that work, and then that's kind of way freelancers and, well, even outsourced companies generate work. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, right. It's like basically a normal freelance platform. That's how we call it today. But Elance doesn't really exist anymore. It was renamed to Upwork.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So what are the problems with those platforms that you think that came to your mind and you thought, well, we need to create a solution? What problems do those platforms have?
Well, I've been personally working on Upwork for many years, and even before on Elance. So yeah, it's like what bothered me are mostly fees. Like fees are like I would say unreasonably high for like modern age.
Hmm.
So like yeah, this is even like the quality of service wasn't that good all the time. You know, like even Upwork, it's down too often. I mean, it's like if they take like such a big cut, one would expect like really like a uh, complete perfect service, but
Hmm.
that's not really happening. So yeah, so I think like we can do better once we have like these blockchain technologies and decentralization. So yeah, I thought like it might be a good idea.
What kind of fees do they take? How much do they charge? I mean, because you're talking from the freelancer's point of view, right?
Yeah, you mean Upwork right
Yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so yeah, they have kind of new policy now. Like they take 20% of your first earned $500, and then 10% until I don't know how much is maybe like 20,000, and then 5% after you. I mean, if you have like it all goes to one employer. So you make first 500 into from one employer, they take 20, then they take 10. If you find a new employer, it's the same again,
Oh
first
my
20.
goodness, that's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah, which is kind of like it hurts, I would say, even like uh, there are like new freelancers who take a lot of jobs from a lot of employers, and it's always like minor jobs. You know, especially even like people from poorer countries, they take a lot of minor jobs, and so basically they end up paying the most, 20% every time.
Yes, because they don't have repeat business with the same employer, so they never get
Yeah,
past that 20%.
yeah,
Okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, because from I've used those sites from an employer's point of view. So we as the employers, we never see the fees because from our point of view, the service doesn't cost anything to use. We just put the project up there. I say I want this development work done, or I want this graphic design done. There's a $500 budget. I pay the $500 and that's it. So from the employer's point of view, they don't really appreciate that that's going on. And it also, having you said what you just said there about the freelancers taking so much of a hit on the fees, and because it's a lot of individuals that are earning money on these platforms, it's quite a lot. It's about quite a big chunk of the earnings. If it was a company that had, workflow processes and was highly leveraged, then maybe they would see it as acceptable to pay that kind of a fee, but because it would just come off profit. But when it's an individual and you take that 20% straight out of their pocket, it makes a bigger difference. Would you say that's fair?
yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, I don't know like some numbers, but I think like Upwork must have huge profits, like because and considering the fact how many people work there, must be really like tons of money.
Right. And you were saying like if it's 20% or even 10% or 5%, um, you're essentially their customer. You want value for money. And if the site is going offline, I don't know how often that happens, but if the site's going offline or if they're not providing you with good customer support, that's the time when you start questioning the fees. Because if you had great service, well, you probably wouldn't ever think about the fees because you think, well, it's valuable. But if it's far from perfect, that might cause you to start questioning it. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they have support. I personally used their support several times. I had like mixed experience, sometimes good, sometimes worse. But so yeah, I mean, but still like 20% is 20%. That's like another tax.
It is. It absolutely is. And actually, there would be whatever earnings you end up with, you're probably going to get taxed as well anyway. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you like lose a half of money along the way.
right. Absolutely right. Okay. So that's when you kind of got the idea to build Elance, right? But when did you, because how long have you been using sites like Upwork and Elance, those kinds of sites? How long have you personally been using them?
I think it could be like 3 or 4 years.
Okay. So you've
Yeah.
been using it for 3 or 4 years. So when was it in that 3 or 4 year period that you decided to do something about it in terms of building Ethlance? Like, because I'm always interested in that, like the timing of when you decided to take the action. I always say to people, like, why didn't you start the project 6 months earlier, or why didn't you start it 6 months later? Like, why then?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it wasn't really like that. I stopped working on Upwork, and because I got a freelance job directly for a company.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at the time I started Ethlance, I wasn't working on Upwork anymore. But yeah, it was more like I discovered Ethereum, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, I was pretty amazed by it, and I was like curious if you can really build like decentralized on top of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I created some kind of lottery just as a proof of concept. I wanted to see if it's really like if it works.
Right.
So yeah, it turns out it works pretty well. So
Okay.
then then I kind of wanted to create something useful, you know, for humanity. And
Good man.
I didn't really know what, but like around the time I also like wanted to start earning my living in crypto rather than fiat money.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of naturally hit me like I wanted this platform, you know, to use. And as I Googled around, I was surprised that nobody is doing it,
Mm-hmm.
nobody is working on it. So then it kind of hit me, okay, I have to do it like for myself.
Right.
So yeah.
That's a classic business origin story where the entrepreneur kind of has a problem themselves, looks for a
Yeah,
solution,
exactly.
it's not there, so they create it, right? Now, it's interesting you say you Googled around, and I've Googled around. I did find a few sites pretty soon after Bitcoin came along that are they're just like Upwork, so they're centralized freelancer sites. The only difference is that the currency is Bitcoin, and that's the only difference. So what I thought I was going to find was the Ethlance type sites, but it took until now for someone to actually fully use the decentralized technologies that are available and not just use it as a currency.
Yes, exactly. As I also found those like platforms when you can earn crypto, which was my goal, but I wasn't really like happy with them. You know, they didn't really get too appealing to me. I thought like I could make it better, even like with Ethereum to make it like 100% decentralized.
Sure. So would you consider Ethlance a proof of concept, or are you building it with the intention of making it like a serious competitor for the Upworks of the world?
Yeah, like right now we have intention to make a business out of it. We still want to like keep zero fees as long as it will be possible. But yeah, we have some other types of monetization in our mind. But yeah, those. I mean, the idea started to create like a clone of Upwork, but
Mm-hmm.
right now we have like the feeling we can pretty much outgrow Upwork in terms of interesting features. You know, like we launched the sponsor jobs feature now, when like users can basically raise funds for their job if it's like some non-profit community project which needs sponsors. So which is something Upwork doesn't have. And we have like some other more features people suggest us. For example, we will have bounties, we will have like payments in arbitrary tokens. So yeah, like thanks to blockchain, we can really make even something much better than Upwork is.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to ask you about that sponsored jobs thing. So because when I was looking at Ethlance in preparation for speaking to you, I revisited it because I actually, believe it or not, do you know that I found, because I needed someone to help me with managing guests on the Cryptoverse, like inviting them, arranging the dates and following up with them and all that kind of stuff. And would you believe the first time I used Ethlance, I thought I need to try it out just like you, like let's try it. And so I posted a job on there and I actually found someone, and the fellow that's now approaching people on my behalf and booking them in, I found through Ethlance.
Oh, great, great. So it works, right?
It does work, absolutely does work. So then I'm on there yesterday and I see this sponsored jobs thing. So how does that work? Is that like, it's almost like a crowdfunding feature, but it's specific to, say if you want, okay, I'm thinking about Monero. So Monero has this kind of unique way of building new features. If they want to build a new feature, they kind of put a proposal up and then they ask the community to donate funds to it in order to get it to a funding target. So it's not built into the blockchain or anything. It's purely an offline and an informal way of proposing new features and seeing if the community will fund them. So is it almost like that?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I didn't know about this, but it's exactly like what we do. Like it's meant for community, like non-profit projects.
Right.
When for a type of jobs like whole community would like to see done, but somebody has to like coordinate it, like, and all this organize. It's tool for organizing community basically.
Right.
Yeah. So the idea came when ENS, which is like Ethereum name system service, needed to like security audit for their smart contracts, and it's like non-profit Ethereum project. So yeah, the guy who was like there in charge, he asked us if we could like have some features like this, and yes, like this came from that.
Yeah, because normally whatever job I would post on there or any business would post on there, it would be usually a for-profit company that's building a new feature that they're going to, make more money on than they spend. You know what I mean? If I don't know, ask someone to edit a video or something that I intend to put out or add to a course or whatever, right? So that's how it would get paid for. Whereas, like you say, if it's a non-profit or if it's a community feature that isn't intended to generate profit of its own, it has to be funded another way, and that's where the sponsored job feature comes in, I assume. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, but and in return, you can, as a sponsor, you can submit there your name with link, which will be displayed on the job page. So you get kind of little bit of advertising in return.
Oh, really? Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's even like ordered from the highest amount. So like the biggest sponsors are on the top and down.
Okay, well that's interesting because I do take a percentage of Cryptoversity's profits every month, and I've been donating them to all kinds of open source and not-for-profit companies in the crypto sphere, like I don't know, BitSquare, decentralized exchange, or whatever's hot at the time, or whoever needs help, right? Whereas that might be pretty good if I can see specifically where the money's going to go and what it's going to be used for. I might have a go at that, especially if it raises awareness for the Cryptoversity and the podcast anyway. So I might check that out.
Yeah, definitely. Like right now we have like one open sponsored project, which is like proof of Reddit, which connects Reddit accounts with Ethereum addresses, which is also like non-profit community project, like something like nice to have. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I think right now it's open for sponsorships and it's being worked on.
You just mentioned a term there. You called it, what was it, ENS?
Yeah.
What's that?
So ENS, it's basically like DNS, like domain system, but decentralized, made on top of Ethereum. Okay. So it's supposed to fix the only decentralized domain system we have right now. Okay. Which is pretty vulnerable.
It is. It absolutely is. I was going to ask you specifically about that, but you beat me to it. So I was going to focus on the fact that to the naked eye, you look at Ethlance, and it's not obvious unless you've got a trained eye or you know what you've found. But can you explain like how Ethlance is decentralized? And I would say it is completely decentralized. I was going to say except for the domain name, right? Because the ethlance.com is still using the existing domain name system, which is centrally controlled. Am I accurate?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So it works like the whole Ethlance database and backend logic, like a server, quote, server logic, is in Ethereum smart contracts, so completely decentralized. And then we have like source files for front end front end of Ethlance, which is served from IPFS, which is like decentralized file storage, something like BitTorrent, but more suited for serving web applications.
Mm-hmm. So you know this Ethereum name, what do you call it? Ethereum name system, ENS.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've looked at things like Namecoin and similar decentralized DNS systems. And the trouble at the moment is that without the support for those things being built into web browsers, you have to either install a plugin or something, because like with Namecoin specifically, the domain name extension is .bit. But if you try and visit a .bit domain name, it doesn't resolve properly because it just doesn't recognize it as a domain name unless you have some kind of plugin or you manually route it, right? So is that going to are we going to have the same problem with an Ethereum naming system? We're going to have a browser plugin temporarily.
Yes, like the problem stays, but for the Ethereum it's kind of better, because if you want to like interact with the Ethereum blockchain, you anyway must have something like MetaMask or Mist browser, and those things are gonna implement ENS. So it's like enough for you to have like just MetaMask or Mist browser, and it will work for you.
Aha, that's a very good point. So I followed your instructions, installed MetaMask and put some Ethereum in it, and that's how I was able to post the project and find Rustico, who's helping me with the booking of the guests. So I'm now running MetaMask in my Chrome browser. So I've just learned something there. So you're going to say that if that would also take care of the name, the resolution of domain names on a Ethereum-based decentralized domain name system. So that's, there's nothing more for me to do then if I'm running MetaMask. That's good.
Yeah, it should be like that.
That's very good. Now, it's a shame because with Namecoin was like it was the first attempt at a decentralized naming system. However, it kind of sounds like Ethereum's going to beat it to the punch. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I hope so.
You hope so? I guess you're a big Ethereum fan, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I honestly I don't know much about Namecoin, so I just said it like that. I mean, for me, it doesn't really like matter as long as it's gonna be decentralized and people will use it. But like Ethereum, has this advantage that people just need like one plugin to interact with blockchain and with ENS. So
absolutely. So let's go back to IPFS for a second. So Ethereum powers essentially the database for Ethlance, right? And all of that data is decentralized.
And also like a logic, backend side logic.
Oh, really? Okay, so...
Yeah, because you have like a smart contracts, which is like a code,
right.
And this code manages those data. So right. It's also like logic and data.
Right, so the code that actually manipulates the data is also in these smart contracts.
Yeah.
Okay, so the only thing then that's left to host on IPFS are things like, or just the website files. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, front-end files.
Okay, so I maybe this is a gap in my knowledge of IPFS here, but so you still have control of Ethlance in the sense that if you want to roll out a new feature like the sponsored jobs feature, you have the power to do that.
Yes, of course, and it's pretty it's surprisingly easy actually. I would say like it's even more simpler than if you had like some server and some build system and everything.
Right, but like so again, this is my IPFS knowledge is limited. So you have kind of authority over those files that are hosted in a decentralized way on IPFS.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to like explain a bit and. Without explaining like whole IPFS.
Yeah, sure. Okay, do this for me. Like, walk me through the process of, say, you've just developed a new feature, and you want to roll it out live on Ethlance. What do you do?
All right, so like IPFS has a thing called IPNS, which is also stands for NS stands for a name system.
Okay, gotcha.
And And this IPNS can point to any file or any folder on IPFS network.
Okay.
Right. So when I have a new version, I add those new source files into IPFS network, and then I change this IPNS pointer to point into those new files, into this new folder. And so basically, there is the domain ethlance.com that points to IPNS pointer, which then points to the latest version of files on IPFS network.
Okay.
Of Ethlance files.
So then everyone else who's hosting those files, their system is monitoring that pointer, and then I suppose automatically when a new file is added to that pointer.
Yeah, like everyone who hits ethlance.com will be pointed into latest version of this IPNS. I have a control.
Right, that's the thing, right? So you control the name,
yes,
the addresses, right? Okay, and every file has its own unique address. It's just that what the file that lives at the end of that address, you can change it or update it or whatever, but the addresses themselves remain the same.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So, for example, if I or someone else wanted to help to host Ethlance on IPFS, how would you do it?
Well, it's pretty easy. You just download IPFS and start running it. But yeah, on IPFS, you don't really have any control, like what kind of files you're hosting. You're helping to propagate.
Okay.
So you just run it, and there is like algorithm in the background which calculates like which files is the best for you to serve. It depends like where the requests come from. You know, it's pretty complex stuff.
Okay, I didn't know that either. Now that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. I'm definitely going to do that. I'm going to try that because I understand the power of IPFS conceptually. It's just that these little nuances, you've just taught me quite a lot actually today, which is I'd say it's rare. And I'm not bigging myself up there. It's just that a lot of the times when I pose questions to guests, I sort of already know the answers to them, but I ask them anyway, in the spirit of openness, in case, you know, I haven't got it quite right, and also because I want it to come to the audience from the guests. But in this case, quite a few of the questions I've asked you, I genuinely did not know the answers to them. So I'm really enjoying having you so far, because I have my eyes opened, right? So that was a good one. So IPFS is more sophisticated than I thought. Sophisticated, yes, I knew, but the fact that it is smart enough to take the individual nodes into account and their specific circumstances, and then decide, okay, you're best to host this kind of content or whatever, right? Pretty like good.
For example, like if Ethlance was the most Ethlance source files were the most requested files, probably every IPFS node on the network would have a copy of it, you know. So more people are requested, the more is propagated.
Was it hard to learn IPFS?
Not really. It's super easy to use. That's the best part of it, you know. It's so complex, but the user-facing part, it's so easy. You just run it.
Well, that's the first thing that struck me when I visited Ethlance for the first time, was how fast it was. Right, like faster than the Upworks and the freelancer.coms of the world, because they're probably now huge sites, you know, with massive databases and God knows what server infrastructure, right? I suppose that's Ethlance advantage at the minute. It's probably fairly lean at the moment.
Yeah, of course, and it also depends. Like if you had like some IPFS node close by you, so you were kind of lucky, let's say, so the load is very fast.
Okay, sure. I was going to ask you how you've funded Ethlance so far, but you said like you actually built Ethlance yourself. So that's just your own coding knowledge, your own time, right? And then to deploy those, I think is it 10 smart contracts that powers Ethlance?
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you built those, did you have to pay some Ether to launch them on the network or something?
Of course, yeah. I mean, as we expand, we have more and more smart contracts, and yeah, right now we have maybe like 12, I guess, and Yeah, it's funny because like there is one smart contract from those 12 which holds all data which is not supposed to be swapped at any time. It's supposed to be there until the end of time. And these 11 other, they have like a logic which is like which can be swapped. You know, we just swap a new one with the new logic, new features, so on. Okay. So yeah, like last time I was doing some kind of internal optimizations, and I had to swap maybe like 10 smart contracts, and those are like big, you know, like bigger, more code, it's more expensive. So to swap all of those, I think I spent around like 15 or 20 bucks.
Okay.
Like dollars, and. So yeah, it's funny. So you have to think twice if you want to introduce some new bug,
right?
Because you know it costs you money.
Okay, but for you it's a one-off though. So when you launch a new version of the smart contract, you paid $20 worth of Ether that updates the smart contracts on Ethereum network, and then say me as a user, when I want to do a transaction, then I just pay whatever the transaction fee is to run that smart contract.
Yes, but it's not updating smart contract. We always deploy new because you can't really update smart contract.
All right, sorry, yeah, I know.
No.
Yeah, so when I want to generate some new data, or in my case, the actual job itself, if I wanted to make a change to it or close the job even, because when I finally closed the job, it was like, I don't know, 13 cents worth of Ether or something to actually make that happen. So that was a transaction fee to get Ethereum to process that and update the data that relates to that particular job. So other than that then, so say you didn't update those smart contracts, right? You'd have just paid the $20 once and then...
yeah, I mean, when I want to introduce new feature, I deploy new smart contract.
Yes.
And then in the front end, I change the address which front end connects to the address of the contract.
Yep.
And then I deploy a new front end, so people who open ethlance.com, then they connect to a new smart contract.
Yeah, I get that. I was just saying, theoretically, if you never updated the smart contracts again, then you wouldn't have to pay any more Ethereum yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for deploying new smart contract, yeah.
Yeah, so I know you have to because you're going to maintain it and so on. So it's an interesting shift in mindset, I suppose, for a developer, is that if you're going to push a batch of updates, right, you really want to do it when you're ready, because like you say, if you made a typo or something and you have to resubmit it, you have to pay again all the Ethereum fees there. That's not a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a new way of working. In fact, I'm so used to using like the Upworks that I've got this habit. It's neither a good nor a bad habit. It's bad when it comes to using this new way of working, of like saving a draft, proofreading it, editing it, correcting it, saving another draft, proofreading it again, right? But which I'm just used to doing that. Whereas I couldn't do that with Ethlance just because it works differently. If I kept doing that, I'd be paying the transaction fee to submit it every time. So it made me, so I'd kind of sit there and do it in a batch before I submitted it. And it was a good experience. The best way to figure it out is to do it, which is why I submitted a job, just first experience. I wanted to get the experience of it so that I knew all the ins and outs.
Yeah.
I'm also willing, me personally, I'm not sure if this extends to everybody who uses these kinds of sites, but because I know that Ethlance is decentralized and it's it's using all these new fandangled technologies, I'm more willing to shift the model and to pay the transaction fees myself in order to use something like Ethlance. Like I said, I don't know how far that extends to other users, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to point out, like, people kind of need to realize that if they pay like a few cents for each change into database, for each transaction, at the end of the day, it's still more beneficial for them, because as if we had to have fees, because right now we don't have to pay for servers, so we have basically like zero costs for infrastructure. So this is like what helps to keep zero fees, you know. So people must realize if I pay a couple of cents for applying for a job, you're still better off as if you were paying 5% of your earned money.
That's actually a very good point. So I'm going to say it again from the employer's point of view. If the freelancers know that they're going to get stung for like 20% of a $500 job, well then that might encourage them to sort of bid slightly higher to counteract the fees, right? Because they know they're going to get it taken out anyway, which ultimately makes it more expensive for the employers. What I'm getting at though is that on Ethlance, well, the freelancers can just post a genuine price because they know they're going to get it all. So that actually makes it better for the employers by paying those few cents you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of sense, this reminds me of actually of governments. You know, you pay taxes like, I don't know, 20% income tax, and it ends up in a big black box, and you don't really know how the funds are distributed. But with this, you pay exactly for what you use, how much, you know, for every change you make into the database.
Yes, indeed. That's very good. I like it. All right, let me ask you the magic wand question, which is, it's more general. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it and just solve one problem in the world of cryptocurrencies, what would it be?
I'd say maybe like friction of exchanging fiat currencies into crypto money. Because yeah, like I know like the startups are doing like best they can to reduce these frictions, but I don't really see it very brightly because, you know, governments have a tendency to like regulate only more and more, and yeah, so I'm pretty curious how it's going to be in future.
Okay, that's actually a good answer. I think that is causing a lot of friction, and the it may not be, I don't know, it may not be realistic for the reasons you say, like government intervention and the bank's resistance and so on. So where I go from there is always to say, well, why don't we skip that whole thing and let's start earning our income in crypto, which kind of brings us full circle back to the beginning as to why you created Ethlance in the first place. So that's you've definitely,
yeah, exactly. Like with Ethlance, you can like exchange your time directly into crypto money,
right?
You know, so you're like making fiat money a little bit less useful and crypto money more useful. You know, if we were all working for crypto money, fiat money would be pretty much useless and no need for exchanges.
Exactly. If you're earning crypto, spending crypto, that's it, you know. So you've definitely begun the journey to build a platform, you know, that contribution to humanity you spoke about earlier on. I think you're definitely on the road to that.
Yep.
All right, mate. So is there anything else you want to talk about before we close today?
Maybe I'd like to invite everybody to create an account on Ethlance, you know, to try it out. It's for free and accept Ethereum gas fees. And yeah, sooner or later, we might get a job for you.
Okay, nice one. Where can people go to follow the project? Do you have, I think I've just joined your Slack channel, so can you give out your social media links, website links, and all that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, so it's like just go to ethlance.com. We have Slack, we have Twitter, Facebook, so everything can be found there.
Okay, superb. Well, Matus, I have had an absolute joy speaking to you today, so thank you very much for being on the Cryptoverse.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
All right, see you soon.
See you.
So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Please leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. And please support the Cryptoverse and boost cryptocurrency adoption by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and becoming a patron. From just a few dollars a month, you can secure Cryptoversity's future, get unlimited access to all Cryptoversity courses, and access a private patrons-only chat group where you get direct access to me. That is all for today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.